Hey guys, John from Fit Potential here. So today we're roasting coffee, and I'm actually outside in my driveway because this is a very messy and stinky process. So what I'll do here is go through the setup, and then I will go kind of step by step through the actual roast, go in and out of the video and show you how everything's done. So first of all, obviously you need the roaster, and this is actually a popcorn popper from the 1980s. I confiscated it from my grandparents' basement. It is the exact model is a West Bend Poppery 2. This is something you can find at thrift stores, Goodwill, and the like for like $3 or $4. So the way this works is it pulls the hot air in through the vents, if you can see those down in there, through the bottom, and circulates the beans, which you'll see once I get it going. And that's critical for keeping the temperature at least somewhat controlled. Now when you're doing this, it obviously gets messy because it blows off all this chaff. You can see I already roasted 2 batches so far to get it warmed up. Your first batch is going to be kind of terrible because the for this particular method anyway, this roaster has to warm up a little bit, or the popper has to warm up. So you're also going to need a wire or something like a colander like this in order to cool the beans down right away so they don't get over roasted. And I have a nutritional scale that I use to weigh each individual batch. And today I'm roasting, well, obviously you need coffee. So today I'm roasting Sweet Maria's brand, and the blend is, it's called the Amber Blend, Liquid Amber Espresso Blend. I don't drink coffee, I drink espresso. So in order to not sound like a super snob, that's the truth. So I roast my particular batches to my particular taste, and that's one of the main benefits of doing this. Also, I pay about $6 a pound, whereas this quality of coffee from in a roasted form from a roaster will be at least 2 to 3 times that much. So this is a 10-pound bag, and as you can see, it's green coffee. This particular blend is a little bit more white than some of the beans, so it's obviously a blend between different beans, but this is known as green coffee. So if you're a complete noob, there it is if you've never seen it before. So what I'll do now is I'll get a batch going, and I'll go in and out of the video, and I'll show you what to look for and what to watch for in order to end up with something like that. Be right back. So here I measured the coffee out. Typical roast size for the Poppery 2, or any roaster for that matter, is going to depend. So for me, what I've found is just under a half a cup, between 80 and 85 grams is perfect for this roaster. If it's any less, then it typically produces too dark of a roast. If it's any heavier, if there's too many beans in it, if there's too many beans in the bottom of it, it won't circulate, it'll just sit. So you need it to constantly spin, and the roast time to be very consistent over time. So I'll get the machine going here, and I'll tell you what to listen for. And I apologize in advance, it'll probably be loud. So 83 grams in the hole. Just a quick shot of the speed those guys are spinning around in there. That's just about perfect. Maybe a little quick. And then you also can see the shaft blowing off. And that's going to blow off for at least 2 minutes, 2 to 3 minutes. Now we're about 2 minutes in, 2.5. and most of the chaff is blowing off, and you can see that the beans are getting more and more lighter and bouncier as they get hotter. They get lighter, and any second now you'll hear the first crack, just like you would hear the cracks and the pops in roasting popcorn. 3.5, 4 minutes, just into first crack. You should be able to hear it popping a little bit. Hey bud. There's a couple good cracks, and within about a minute it'll be into second crack, and that's when I'll stop. So this is second crack, and we're about 5 minutes in. Second crack sounds like Rice Krispies, kind of a lower pitch Rice Krispie kind of pop, snap, crackle, pop sound. It's very different than first crack. First crack is snapping. So we should be done here in a couple minutes, and I'll show you the end product. Another shot at the end, 7.5, almost 8 minutes. And you can see the color change and how fast the beans are moving and jumping around in there. There's a little bit of chaff still coming off, but mostly gone. And a few little cracks in there. This is almost to a Vienna roast, past a full city. And I'll explain that in a second here when I get it done. So here it is. And here's the part where you gotta keep the coffee moving to cool it down. You can kind of see the consistency of the roast. One of the problems with the air popper is it's not the greatest method due to the fact that the temperature control is so poor on it. But as you see here in a second, that it's not too bad considering what's all involved in particularly the cost involved. So I'm going to mix this up and I'll show you the end result. This is still very hot, and this needs to keep moving to cool it down quick so it doesn't over roast. And so here it is. It's cool to the touch. Just to give you a shot of how well even or uneven, I guess you could say it is. One of the problems with roasting a blend in a popper like this is the beans aren't all going to roast at the same temperature. So what you're seeing is the dark beans in the blend have all roasted a little bit darker, and the blonde ones, called Quakers, because they're under roasted, some by a high degree like this one, and some by not so much. That's the same bean, same varietal of bean. Those get under roasted. So what I typically do is I get them cooled down to the point where I can touch them, and then I go through and I pick out those these kind of lighter roasted ones, Quakers, so I can get a consistent roast, and I'll show you that in a second. And we're back, and you can see the final product here with all the lighter roasted beans picked out. So I go through real quick, pretty much. I don't analyze it too much and pick out these guys. You can maybe see the color difference between the two. The reason you want consistency is those lighter roasted beans matched with the they're just under roasted, so they're not going to taste right. Matched with the darker ones will produce off flavors and inconsistency in your coffee if you're a snob like me. So compared to where we started, under roasted, about right. So technically this is about a full city roast. You can look those terms up. Those are just snobbish coffee terms for the degree of roast. And one more part, I'll just show you how I store these and go over a few quick tidbits when I come back. Oh, and I also should say that your end product is going to be considerably lighter than when you first started. So when I started with my 80 grams, this is a half cup. It reduces the weight from about 80 to about 60 or so. So if you're going to roast a pound, say if you want to roast a pound at a time, you got to go a little bit over. So I start with a pound, 4 ounces, something like that. And my final weight is about a pound. So now that the beans are roasted and they're cool from sitting for 10-15 minutes, my next step is to transfer them into this guy. So this is my intermediate storage container. It's a stainless steel, I don't know how big it is, 1 quart. It's just a cheap container, but the purpose of storing in something like this is to allow the CO2 to escape. So underneath this little plastic piece is a one-way valve. So it allows CO2 to escape and prevents oxygen from getting in. Oxygen obviously spoils it. And what happens after coffee has been roasted is it produces carbon dioxide, CO2. And in order to get a very fresh and complete tasting coffee, that CO2 has to be gone out of the coffee. Otherwise you'll actually taste it in the coffee, especially if you're making espresso. It kind of tastes gassy, for a lack of a better term. So what I do is take the product, throw it in here for 3 to 5 days, depending on how dark the roast is. And then from there, once coffee's blown off its CO2, so to speak, then I transfer it to a wine bottle to vacuum pack it. So this is just a used wine bottle, and the secret to this guy is this is a VacuVin cork, a wine saver cork. So once the CO2 it's gone through this container, it goes into here after day typically 3 or 4 depending on the roast. And then with this I can store my coffee up to 2.5 weeks, something like that. So use the coffee, obviously pop off the top, and then every time I want to seal it, then I use the pump to reseal it, and that will make it last longer than just sitting in the one-way valve container, or at least I have found. And one last little tidbit, I'm in my garage now, and this is a box that I use to roast in the winter time. So yes, I'm a freak. I come out here when it's 10-15 degrees, and this actually works pretty well. So I have to put the roaster inside this box, and I devised a little bit of an airflow type heatsink to keep the air flowing in, and that way I can roast in cold weather and still get a pretty good quality product out of it. So just wanted to show you that. It's medium-sized cardboard box, and I put the roaster in and close the flaps like this to bring the popper up to heat, and that yields about a 4 to 5 minute total roast time. And roasting outside today is about 72 degrees or so, with light wind, and that outside today took me about 8 minutes, so go figure. Last bit about it, roasting inside outside is, you have to understand that when you roast coffee, it produces all the chaff that you can see on the floor and on the ground out here, and also it produces quite a bit of smoke. So just some things to keep in mind. I hope you take it upon yourself. It's really fun to learn about all the different facets, save some cash, and take matters into your own hands. Thanks for watching. Any questions, let me know. Bye-bye.